Well, I hauled some oak logs up that I need to split for pegs, but just as an experiment, I was monkeying around trying to split shingles. Well, now, this is seasoned oak. I think I would be a lot better off doing it with green oak. Plus, this particular piece was out of the upper part where, it starts getting a little limby or a little knotty. So she's kind of a fight. But the potential is there. I just wanted to see how feasible it actually was. But it could be done. They're rough. I have to run them with a draw knife yet. Try to square them up. And they're really, not ideal. But I can see where there's a potential for it. I split it into quarters. You're going to end up with a piece like this. And then split that, and then take the sapwood off and the core. Now these are one of the reasons I think it'd be better to do it green, because these have been sitting around for maybe 2 years. And oak, if it's sitting around with the bark on, the beetles will start. And you can see where the beetle here has chewed down an inch into the wood. Well, even here's a little piece where you can see he, there again was an inch into the wood. To make a tunnel. Well, it doesn't do any good to have shingles with holes in them. The wood is solid, but those critters are bored through there. I once built the cabin with oak with the bark on, and you could hear them chewing. And then eventually, of course, you could just peel the bark, it just fell right off. But in the meantime, at night you could hear it. Crunch, crunch, crunch. The beetle's chewing. Or it's like a caterpillar, a larvae of some sort. But they can chew. But in monkeying around with these, like I say, I wouldn't do it out of these. These are too gnarly and twisty, but I can sort around and get pegs out of them. But when I was squaring up the edges on them, and peeling this part down, I was using a broad hatchet, and it made me think, this is one of them tools that I seldom see used. They're not, like this is the Husqvarna Carpenter's hatchet, even taper like that. Now, a broad hatchet isn't. It's like a broad axe with flat on one side, curved on the other. And it's for doing exactly that, peeling a piece, narrowing it down, because you can keep a straight edge with it, one edge. But it made me think I very seldom see anybody using these. Or when I do see people using them, I see them using them like a regular hatchet. They're trying to chop down or chop off branches using a broad hatchet. That isn't what they're for. It isn't like a broad axe. It is in that it's one-sided. It's sharpened only on one side. But like I showed you when I was showing you my big broad axe, that actually is more rounded, and the blade has got a curve to it, because it's made to take a scallop out of the wood. If you're trying to smooth a log, now let's see, this beater was a log. With a broad hatchet, you come down like that, the odds of actually hitting right are very slim. Any little bit off, and you're going to dig in here or dig in there. That's why there's that slight curve to them, so that you can take a scallop off of them. That's where you'll see it. A beam that's been hewn that way will have kind of scallops to it. And then you can take an adze and smooth that off, and even an adze leaves a little bit of a scallop. But what these are really for is for smoothing the edge on something. It's an old carpenter's tool. A lot of times when I cut boards, I'll make one side flat, because then when I'm running that Alaskan mill, I can run the mill along the one side, the flat side. That just works better. But I'll leave the other side just raw with the bark on it. Then I can come back later and knock it to the width. I can figure out how much maximum width I can get out of it and take it to that width. But if you're trying to make a certain size board, the easiest way to do it, let's see if I was going to go, well, I guess when I could get, well, a very good 8 out of it. But what you would do, and here again is another underutilized tool, is a chalkline. Never see anybody using them, but they're really an indispensable tool. They've been around just forever. But you just pull it tight and snap it. It leaves a trail of chalk. Oh, it's kind of humid. My chalk is damp. Don't want to lose that nail. But then you can take a broad hatchet and cut it down to that line, and you get a square board. And the thing about these, like I said, they're made for peeling one way. But when you're using them, you pay attention to where the grain is going. Like if the grain was going this way, I would have marked the other side and worked it upside down. You want it so that it's always trying to go out this way when you mark on this side. They are reversible. You could set them up to be right hand, left hand, and there is no cant to the handle like there is with a regular broad axe, because you're not in a place where you're going to get interfered with your work. This is particularly nasty. Oh, but you get the idea. But they're a very handy tool, and like I say, I never see anybody using them. Or if I do, I see them using them around. But it's one of them things. You can do the same thing with like this Husqvarna one. You can do it, but you can't do as smooth a job because it's got the 2 bevels on it. You're going to end up with a kind of a ripple effect to it. But it will work. This is a good all-around for rough carpentry. In fact, I was using that to split these quarters out, driving it with this ironwood beater. And that works. And it, the ironwood isn't going to break it. But, as I say, in my single experiment, I was using this new roll. And it worked, but I'm going to have to do a little playing with it, because this has got a bevel there. It's tapered where it goes in, but the taper on the handle isn't the same as the taper on here. They've got it flares out a lot on here, so it really is only making contact down here, so it's never going to fit tight. So I'll have to work this down a little so it goes in there further, and hopefully shoulders further up there. So that's just not right. They sent it with a screw that you can put a screw in, but the screw it's still going to flop around, and you're probably going to break the screw off. They really shouldn't need to be held in with the screw. The taper should be right, but like I say, I think I can just rasp this down a bit so it'll go further in there, and that should work. Otherwise it works okay. It works alright. I'm going to have to rig up a brake to do the shingles, but for the pegs it works fine. But I just thought I would mention a broad hatchet is one of those indispensable rough carpentry tools that I never see being used. And the chalkline, there again, cheap, dependable, been around forever, but you never see them being used. You know, people will get themselves a long ruler and mark a pencil line with chalkline. It's much faster. I'm back to work, but I think I'm going to get rained out here pretty soon. But the shingles, you know, I see potential in that. So I'll do some experiment. But like I say, I want to try it with, you know, this is oak, but I want to try it with green oak. I think you make them out of green oak, and then let them season a little, or maybe put them on green, I don't know. You know, I'll experiment. But this stuff is a little tough to split when she's seasoned, and it's gnarly anyway. I mean, oak is just gnarly, stringy kind of stuff. But in theory, oak makes a good shingle. You know, long-lasting shingle because of the tannins in the wood. It'd be a lot easier to make them out of like basswood or popple or, you know, some softwood. But in the long run, I guess oak is the way to go, and I got plenty of oak. But I'm going to have to keep my eyes open for particular trees.